Hey, I'm Rob Smith with blackfilm.com, and today we have Romany Malco with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Rob, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you today, my brother. I love how positive you are about this film. You genuinely seem to have enjoyed it, and that means the world, my dude.
I did. And I have to say, we had those technical difficulties yesterday, and you were so gracious and came back to talk to us again today because we really want to get this film out and help you promote it because it is so good. It is so funny. So let's just jump right into it and talk about Tijuana Jackson, Purpose Over Prison, which I'm sure some people at this point know you wrote, directed, edited, but what some people probably don't know is you also had to do all the fundraising for this movie too. So I wanted to let you talk about that for a moment and how that situation came to be.
Well, how it came to be was I started doing the character on YouTube in 2011, and over time I grew this audience. And that audience was like, "Yo, you gotta make a movie with this, bro." And I didn't take it seriously at first, but a few years went by, and they were like, "Yo, do a crowdfunding campaign and we'll pay for it." And sure enough, I eventually started doing the crowdfunding campaign for it. Sure enough, they were willing to pay for it. So the strategy of a crowdfunding campaign that a lot of people aren't aware of is that you never ask for what you need on a crowdfunding campaign. You always ask for about 50% of what you need. The reason is because it's an easier number to hit, but two, any successful crowdfunding campaign will usually be funded by about 200 to 1,000% of asking. So it's a great way to gauge. And so even if you're falling short of actually being, rated a successful campaign, you can still raise the money you need. But the other part of that the basic part of it is that if you need 100,000 and you ask for 50,000, the likelihood of you raising anywhere between 100,000 and 500,000 is pretty high for a successful campaign. The campaign itself was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. It's more difficult than making a movie, to be honest with you. It was exhausting. But one of the best tools that I had for the campaign was a video that I made 3 years ago called Tijuana Jackson, Purpose Over Prison. It was a video that I made called Racket of Racism. That video went viral. And by going viral, I used it to promote the crowdfunding campaign, and then people would click through from the video and contribute. And through that, I was able to eventually raise about $200,000. And then I used the success of that campaign to attract investors. I was like, you see, people want to see this. I think that everybody in Hollywood has an idea. Everybody outside of Hollywood has an idea. Ideas don't hold as much weight as proof of concept. In other words, if it's not an executed idea, no one really cares. And so, go ahead.
For me, it's like, I just feel like on the strength of your resume and your body of work, it should have been much easier for you to kind of position yourself to make this project. Like, I would have expected that.
I will tell you, there's a couple of things about this. One is the way that I wrote the movie, the way that the character portrays himself, he's not the typical or the prototype Hollywood lead. Two, it's just different for Black actors in Hollywood. To be honest with you, I thought that it was going to be easier. And I asked all over Hollywood, and Hollywood was promising, are we going to make this? This guy's so funny. It's so funny. But in their minds, it was funny, but not worth taking a risk on. And so, I was just like you. I was kind of like the girl who's having the affair with the married man, and the married man keeps saying he's going to leave his wife, but he never does. I was kind of that girl. I was that side piece because they kept promising me that they're going to help me raise this money and they were going to fund my film, and they never did. And so after a while, I kind of woke up and realized, damn, this isn't really going to happen. And that's when I decided that going about the crowdfunding campaign was the best way. And funny enough, my manager then comes to me and says, I don't like the idea of you doing a crowdfunding campaign. I was like, why not? And he was like, look, bro, you're an established actor. An established actor asking for money just doesn't sit right with me. And I was like, oh, wait, you think I'm an established actor? Don't you think that if I was an established actor, we would have raised this money by now? You've been promising for 2 years. And he was like,
shut it down. Shut it down.
Right. And so what ended up happening was I basically started the party. I poured my own champagne. I put on my own music. I got on the dance floor by my damn self. And when the party got started, I was like, now let me send out some invitations, proof of concept. And people started wanting to join the party. And that's my new game. You see everywhere, I'm always talking about ideas, proof of concept. You show that it works. You show that you can make it work. You show that there is financial support to it. You're speaking a very different language from a brother with an idea.
I love that. You created your own table. You didn't wait for somebody to give you a seat at it. So, and that's what most needs to do. I love that.
100%. And let me tell you, like Black independent films, there's a long way to go for us still, because we're still figuring out how to market these things. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think that, like, the misconception is that you make a film and then it's automatically in the rankings with all these big films. No, independent films are ranked very differently. I've had 2 major studios very interested in my film until they found out what the budget was, because their budget criteria is that they can only back a film with their real marketing team and with their real distribution team if that film is made within like an 18,000 to X amount of dollar, 18 million to X amount of dollars. So they can't take a risk on a film made for as little money as mine. So then that means, well, let's go to the independent, the independent outlets. And honestly, the people that take interest in independent films, well, not that we don't watch them, but the predominant audience, the people who govern the outlets, it ain't us.
Yeah.
It ain't us. And so I really didn't even think of sending my film to Sundance. In fact, my producers knew it. They took an unedited version, like a 3.5-hour version of the film, and submitted it at some point. Like, Sundance? For what? Look, 350 films get picked up at Sundance, get shown at Sundance. 4 of those films get picked up by distributors. And if we are lucky, 1 will actually make money. Yeah. And so hopefully I'm part of this. I'm part of helping in pioneering the way in which Black independent films are distributed and handed over to our audiences and monetized. Sorry.
And the Black media outlets like us here at blackfilm.com, we definitely have to do our part in helping to push your story and our narrative forward in front of our audience as well, to make sure that we come and support these projects that you guys are putting your heart and your soul and your love and your money into.
And a lot of us are speaking about specific things within our community, and I think it's important that, God, stop me if I'm getting too carried away, okay? No. But I want to say something. I want you to think about this. Just imagine some white dude or some white woman is assigned to write your life story. Rob, she's writing your life story every day. She's depicting aspects of your life. And she's never been in your shoes, and she may not even talk to you about it, or maybe she has. And every day, that story is being put on television. And that story is creating an impression of who you are and who people like you are every single day. And then when you walk out in public and you don't live up to the imagery that was portrayed, that was written for you by this person who's never experienced your life, who's never been a part of your culture, and you don't live up to the image that they've written for you, you're interpreted as a threat or a disappointment or a deplorable. That sounds ridiculous, right? And that's exactly what it has been in Hollywood for a very long time. So one of the reasons I think it's important to check out independent Black film and Black film as a whole is that we're in a place now where we're actually writing our own stories, and the depictions are a lot more authentic.
Absolutely. We're telling our own stories. We're telling a genuine story from our experience and our perspective. So yeah, our voice. So
exactly.
With that, I have to say, like, when I watched this movie last night, I had to take a nap after I was so tired from laughing. I'm telling you, seriously, I was crying laughing. But your relationship to Regina King and to Tami Roman both were so organic and so real. The language and the way you guys talk to each other, and you could tell there was like a true relationship between the characters. How did you go about casting those 2 hilarious ladies in this project?
Well, everything that I write, pretty much every female lead that I write is pretty much for Regina Hall. That's just the way that is. Tami Roman, however, I was having a problem finding someone to play her. Now, I was a fan of Bonnet Chronicles. So I was like, yo, you think we can get the Bonnet Chronicles to play TJ's sister?
Yeah.
I had no clue that Bonnet Chronicles, and I didn't even know who Tami Roman was. I'm embarrassed. I would never have cracked so many jokes as this character about Basketball Wives had I known that that me and Tami Roman were working together one day.
Yeah.
And so we actually talked over Skype and just kind of joked. I played the character and she played herself, and we just kind of joked and was like, oh, there we go. She had the attitude, she had the humor, she had the demeanor, she had the look, she was in the right age range. And I was like, right over Skype, I was like, yo, you hired. If you want this job, you hired. Straight up.
I love that because they were both so perfect for those roles. They really, really did bring those characters to life, and it was just so beautiful to see how the casting of this film was so well done. And it was just it was so well done.
Thank you.
What was your motivation or inspiration behind creating the character Tijuana Jackson when you did, and telling his story?
I think the thing that was most important for me is I created this character back in 1999. And he was just basically a way for me to reach people who have been kind of written off by America, you know, that demographic. And I relate because I grew up in the street, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I get it. You don't want to hear nothing from nobody who ain't been through what you've been through. And people kind of look at me a certain way and they don't really think of me as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I figured by using this character and using comedy, I would be able to reach this young, impressionable audience. And sure enough, it just started working. And what I was using the character to do was to teach some things that I had learned in psychotherapy, teach some things I had learned from taking workshops and seminars. Just this demographic would probably never seek out those things or wouldn't feel like they belonged in those things. I wanted to bring it to them, and that's what I did, man. And it worked. They really liked it. It was like, it was like the street version of Oprah, or like the Suge Knight, Oprah Winfrey. You know what I'm saying? It's like they loved it, and their families loved it for them, and they started writing letters and get all these testimonials, and that really encouraged me to like be very responsible with the messages. And so the key was to never make the character so polished that he didn't have flaws. The key is to be heavily flawed, because some people are just more invested in looking perfect than others, or looking good than others. But we're all heavily flawed. And we've indoctrinated our people into believing that somehow being flawed justifies, or being flawed lessens the value of your life. And so it's very important that this character be as off-key and says things that are sometimes wrong and sometimes offensive in the process of trying to do good in the world, because that's how life really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting because you mentioned something yesterday that we all know a Tijuana Jackson in our own personal lives, somebody who's like outspoken, loud, has big dreams. But honestly, if they just had the right people around them and the right opportunities to really propel them to be the best person they could possibly be, the sky could be the limit. So these people deserve opportunities too.
Rob, that's a good statement. And I want to take it even further. I just want to go back a little bit. Like, if they just simply had the right primary caregivers. So I'm one of the few people who was raised in a household of I'm the first American born in my family. And most of my friends who were born in this country, but their families from elsewhere, their parents are immigrants, or most of my friends who were kids, children of immigrants, they were told they had to be lawyers, doctors, or engineers. There was no in between. They didn't want to hear that. And if you became a dentist, they would take it. So whenever they had dreams of pursuing entertainment or being a rapper or whatever, their parents were like, yo, you can get out of my house right now. Where I was for me, my parents encouraged me. They always, were supportive of whatever I wanted to do. And even though they had split up, my dad was always still very supportive, because I was raised by my dad. So it goes all the way back to that. They come from a household where they're protected, because we develop these psychological issues. And like Tijuana Jackson, we just keep getting in our own way. We keep self-sabotaging, and that's the whole point of this character. And the whole point of this movie is to show you how psychologically we sabotage ourselves, and with a simple shift, acknowledgement of community, and awareness of self, we can actually change the trajectory of our lives.
Absolutely. And you really pushed forward some beautiful messages in the film. And
Thank you.
You touched on some that are very current, like in the beginning of the film, he experiences a little bit of brutality from the guards at the prison. And I believe he said, he mentioned having to choose justice or freedom. And how important was it for you to really share those images and those experiences that people have?
It's key because I think that it's key for me to explain the scene exactly that you're talking about. I tried to have a purpose for every single scene. That scene particularly was to articulate that the way in which we as Black people interpret happiness is very different from the way a Caucasian in America would interpret happiness. This is information from doctors and psychotherapists who've done data and research on this. And as a result of that, I wanted people to know that in the world of Tijuana Jackson, you don't get to have both. And it might seem ridiculous, but a lot of us don't even think about it for ourselves. And when we really stop to think about it, it's like, oh shit, I don't even know if we have either. So for me, it was very important to just use that as a device to show people that things that you might take for granted or don't even think about, this dude is aware of that he has to make a choice.
What message would you want, or do you want the viewers of the film to take away with them? What's the overarching message that you want them to take with them?
I'm trying to promote individuality. I'm trying to promote individuality in the character through the characters, but I'm also trying to promote individuality just by the way that I made the film, just by the way, the sheer fact that the film is here. We've got to get back to a place where every piece of art should be in an authentic expression of yourself. And if you look at Tijuana Jackson through this whole thing, ain't nobody changed TJ in that. TJ was still TJ at the end of that damn thing. Mm-hmm. And if you look at Tijuana Jackson through it, he was the odd man out every time. Unwavering. He didn't apologize for it. It's like we have to get to the point of not only being willing to be individuals and be the odd man out, but we have to become more tolerant of the individuals and of uniqueness. And we have to, and it's affecting our art, man. You know, I came from an era when you loved an artist because when I first heard Juvenile, you know, the first song I heard from Juvenile was a song called Huh. But it had a sound that his accent and the things he was talking about was specific to his community. And that made him stand out to me. When I first heard Mystical, same thing. He was specific to a community. And that voice that the people that he was represented helped lift him up to a point of him being, you know, a global star. And so I'm just basically saying the same thing. I'm just basically saying that we have to stop trying to emulate and conform and actually see how many variations of art and representation and voices that we can help promote, because then we make people like your job even more fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you wore so many hats for this project, and what did that do for you for what's coming next? Like, what do you have planned next? Because I'm sure a lot is coming.
I would tell brothers to go out there and make their own film, and the reason I would say that is because, real talk, man, that was my film school. I'd never been to film school, and wearing all those hats and raising the money, I learned a tenor. I learned what's the word I'm looking for? I learned how raising money works. And I got to talk to a lot of wealthy people while I was raising money and got to extract a lot of information from the experiences and from the engagements. So that was one aspect of life that I had never been taught before. Had I known that earlier, I might have used that for other things other endeavors. I learned a lot about editing and techniques that I wouldn't have known otherwise about editing, but it also, while sitting there and editing, it helped me understand how to more efficiently shoot. So we took a break in the middle of my movie for like a few weeks. Mm-hmm. And during that break, I sat and edited. When I came back to do the rest of my movie, everybody was like, you're a different director. Yeah, because now I understood how I was going to shoot things for economy. Yeah. And so it just made things go. The days were shorter. I just got it better. My DP, he's a brother from the Dominican Republic. talented brother, just a talented brother, and he made a huge difference. And so for me now, I just have an empathy for all positions. And so how it influences me moving forward is knowing the importance of having the right people on the team and knowing the importance of making every last one of them feel appreciated. So I've already gotten offers to write and direct studio films. And, I'll probably take up one of those offers for the experience.
Yeah.
But every movie is a different case.
Well, we are looking forward to seeing what you have coming down the pipeline. And I hope everybody goes out or takes the time out, since we can't right now where we are, takes the time to watch this film. It is so good, and they're going to have a great time. So how can people help you promote this film? I want to give you the opportunity to let them know.
That's a big question, and thank you very much. Look, if you really want to help me get a small film out there, one of the things you could do is just join our street team. And what that means is I'll give you trailers that you can download to your phone and show your friends. I will give you the artwork that we use, all the digital artwork, and you can download that to your phones. I'll give you all the material that my PR team and that my distribution team are using. We'll give it to you, and you can download it to your phone and share it. If you want that, just call me at 954-228-8380, and I'll get everything to you. The movie's called Tijuana Jackson, Purpose of a Prison. My name is Romany Malco, and yeah, that's it. Just call me at 954-228-8380, and I'll do my best to get you everything that you need, everything that you ask for. 954-228-8380.
All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us again. We appreciate it so much.
Very much appreciated, my brother. Have a good one, yo.
You too.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.